Do you want to know when to get your kids an iPhone? Well, you're not alone. That is a question that many parents consider. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, family communication, and I do it all through the lens of self-government. We're going to be looking at this question about phones today through the lens of self-government on this video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 signs that your child is ready for a cell phone. And I'm also going to be telling you some stories from my family about how we have handled cell phones at our house. In one of the comments to one of my other videos, a viewer asked, how do we know when a person is ready for an iPhone or for other adult responsibilities? What type of signs are there that a person is ready? So that's why I'm answering this question today on this video, especially related to phones, because I got the impression that for the person asking the question, phones was definitely at the forefront of their mind. We all know that there are negative effects of giving a child a phone. In fact, there are some countries now that are even saying children under a certain age should not be able to have phones. They're certainly not allowing them at school. So we've seen this huge pendulum that's shifted from no phones at school to, okay, now phones are everywhere and we expect them all to be at school. And if you don't have one, you're kind of weird, to now some countries going, nope, no phones. In fact, we do not think children should have phones because the data is in, okay? Because they are seeing now what is happening to the developing brain. They are seeing what is happening to the attention span. They're seeing what's happening socially to some of the children, the increase in bullying and such that is happening, and the disconnection from adults and parents, and the decrease in familial bonds because of that decrease in honoring parental authority. Even people feeling hopeless because they're trapped in a virtual world instead of having connections with live people like they should. So there are so many statistics that you can look up, and we know this is the case. So we know we've got to be very careful with children and cell phones or iPhones. And so what do we look for then? Let's talk about some of my key signs that I look for to know if someone is ready for a phone. There are 5 signs that I look for to see if someone is truly prepared on the inside for a phone. Now, I want to make sure a person is morally where they need to be, okay? Because that phone could control them, right? So they have to be able to be in control of themselves. They also need to have the wherewithal to recognize if something they're being told is not true, because if they just believe everything they see or hear on a device, boy, then I'm just delivering a lamb to the slaughter, right? That wouldn't be very good. So I'm going to be looking for social awareness, intellectual awareness, as well as moral or spiritual awareness. These are going to be 3 things. And I do this by seeing if they are prepared to live certain skills. So I teach self-government all over the world, and the self-government parenting approach that I teach to people revolves around skills, tools that people need to communicate in a way that's self-governed, calm, and understanding with each other. So I teach 4 basic skills. The first one of the 4 basic skills is vital for knowing if a person is ready to govern over a device and not have that device govern over them. So that first skill is following instructions. So the steps to following an instruction are: you look at the situation or the person, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say okay or disagree appropriately, and then you do the task immediately, and then you check back. So that person needs to be able to follow all of my instructions in every area of their life for me to know that they're going to follow my instructions related to this phone. If they have an instruction that that phone needs to charge in my room at night and not in their own room, then they need to be able to say okay and follow that instruction and make sure it happens all of the time. In fact, that's an example of one instruction that my 17-year-old son has. So there is a phone that he is able to use. We call it the kid phone, and he can use this phone on a daily basis just because of where he's at in his life and his ability to self self-govern. However, that phone has to be at a certain place in my room every night. And you know what I've noticed is that every night, probably around 9 p.m., that phone just ends up in my room. It's just always there. He takes it there. I have never had to tell him one time ever that he needed to go and put his phone in that charging location. And in the morning when I wake up, it's still there. And I unplug it. And then he comes and picks it up later when he gets up in the morning. This is how I know that he is really good at following instructions. So following instructions is vital. If your child will follow instructions to do their chores, follow instructions to do their share of the dishes, or do their homework, or be kind to others, whatever the instruction is, then you know that that is a sign they could be getting ready for an iPhone. While we're talking about iPhones, it is really important for parents to know that there is a difference security-wise with Android and iPhone. So there are some features on an iPhone that parents really like to keep their children safe, such as different ways to locate phones and stuff like that. However, I will say that Apple is much more restrictive on what they will allow parents to monitor and shut down on phones than Android is. So if you're looking at a smartphone for a child, it's probably a good idea to look into Android if you want to put protections on there, like filters and things like that, so that your child doesn't get into things that they shouldn't get into. Now, speaking of not getting into things that you don't want your child to get into and developing habits that you know would be detrimental for their lives, another one of the signs that I look for that my child might be ready for a phone, some sort of a smartphone, is that they can accept no answers and boundaries. So all boundaries are technically no answers, lines that you don't cross over. So can your children accept no answers from you about an extra piece of cake or going out to play with their friends? Or do they get moody or emotional or try to do it anyway or sneak an extra little sliver or something? If so, they're not good at accepting no answers. There are 4 steps to accepting no answers and criticism, and those 4 steps are to look at the person or situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject, which means they don't think about it anymore. If they're going to be constantly thinking about their phone when they know they need to be off of the phone and they can't observe boundaries of things they shouldn't see, then you know they're not ready. So if you tell them they can't use your phone and they use it anyway, or you tell them, no, we aren't watching TV right now, and they turn it on anyway, then you absolutely know they're not accepting no answers well, which means they're not going to be able to give themselves no answers or accept your no answers when they're on that device. That means the device can control them. Before I get to my next 3 signs, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the notification bell as well, because you're going to want to know when new videos come out on this channel to help you strengthen up your parenting. Sign number 3 is, can your child accept consequences? Because you're not going to hand somebody something and then never be able to remove it if it becomes a problem. They've got to be able to accept consequences. In fact, when they see something they shouldn't, or they do something on the device that they shouldn't, they're gonna have to accept those consequences anyway. And those are sometimes consequences that can stick with a person for their entire life. So we wanna make sure that they understand there are consequences to every action, every choice that I ever make, and I need to be willing to accept those consequences. Accepting consequences is another one of the 4 basic skills that I teach in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course. If a person can accept consequences, they can stay calm, they can recognize they did it, and they can follow through with fixing whatever problem was occurred, even if it means doing something extra that they wouldn't normally have to do. So if your child needs to be corrected at home, and let's say they earn an extra chore or some other negative consequence, and they accept it with calmness, and they recognize that truly they did choose that, and so it was their fault that there was a problem, and they do this on a regular basis, which means no attitude, no pushback, no talk back, then you know that they're probably getting ready where they could accept the consequences associated with a smartphone as well. So your children need to know that you can remove that device at any time. Just so you know, there is a thing called a Gabb phone, and the Gabb phone is a good transition to a real smart device. So it helps them practice some of their boundaries with a smart type device without having as many of the dangers that come with a real smartphone. So you may want to look into a Gabb phone, and if those are available in your area. Sign number 4, if a person is getting ready to be able to govern over a device of their own. And honestly, we maybe should say that. Really, this video isn't just about phones, is it? It's about anything that can control our children. A TV, a computer, an iPad. If those things are given to them and are in their rooms, then those things have the ability to control our children. If our children don't have the power to control them, meaning have the skills. One other skill that they absolutely need is the skill disagreeing appropriately. So they need to know when something does not agree with them, how to handle the situation. So disagreeing appropriately in your relationship would work like this. Maybe you tell a child they need to do something, and then they say to you, "Mom, may I disagree appropriately?" You would say yes, and then they would say, "Mom, I know you want me to do that thing, but I need to do this other thing first. Would it be okay if I do that one after I do this other thing that I had already started?" And you would have a conversation with them about it. It would be respectful and mature. So when you're going to be discussing devices, it needs to be respectful, mature conversation. A device is a tool, not a toy. In fact, I always told my children, this is an adult tool, not a toy. So if it is not a toy, then that means the child needs to have some maturity when they're handling it and discussing it and making plans for it. If they can discuss with you about other things in their life that they feel like need to be different than you think that they should be, and they can do it in a respectful, calm way, then you can be pretty sure that they will be able to discuss something as personal as a phone and be okay with that too. And if they don't, then make sure you've made plans for how that device is not going to be in their control any longer until they reached the proper level of maturity. Tip number 5. Does your child set goals, and are they able to self-correct themselves in order to maintain alignment with their goals? If you have a child that's self-motivated, that sets goals for themselves in every area of their lives, we're talking spiritual, intellectual, physical, if they can set goals and stick to them and they have plans for their life, that level of motivation tells you that they'll probably do a lot better at governing over a device and not allow that device to control them. But can they also self-correct? So a truly motivated person, a person who has an optimistic attitude and wants the best things out of life, is usually a person who can self-correct. So they see, okay, this is where I'm headed, this is my goal, but then I didn't quite make it, so how do I need to adjust to make sure it's better next time? So this way, if there is any usage on the device that maybe is wrong or is taking too much time or something like that, or is maybe too negative and affecting them, then maybe that child can give themselves a no or correct themselves in some way and adjust the way that they're using the device for the future. The other day, I was sitting with some young women from my church, and as I was talking to them, one of them said, "You know, all that texting and stuff, I was in some group chats and they just got too negative. So I decided to take a break from my phone for a whole month because I had to get my head out of all of those group chats and I didn't want to be part of them anymore." And I was like, wow, that is awesome. Because you know what that means? That means that this person is proactive. They've got goals or things they want to accomplish with the phone. And when they saw it not going right, they self-corrected. Now, I don't know if mom and dad had a part in the conversation, but either way, they chose to do it and they felt empowered by it. That was amazing to me. I would love to teach you more about the skills needed to prepare your child for readiness for adulthood. In fact, isn't that what we're doing as parents anyway? If you've enjoyed this video, I know you'll like the next one, which is called 4 Skills to Transform Your Parenting. There, I'll talk about more skills that you can use to help your children prepare to be ready for such adult things as devices and greater responsibilities. Click on that link now.